I would like to go through my. So firstly, I want to um, wish you everyone happy World Environment Day, June 5, 2021. And as you can also see in a slide that today is World Environment Day and it's our duty to protect our Mother Earth. So let's begin with the slide. So we are going through first traditional knowledge, the term first related to my slide. So why define it at all? As it distinguishes it from other kind of knowledge. That means our traditional knowledge is different from other knowledge, and we are all familiar about the traditional knowledge. That means traditional knowledge belong to us. Now, secondly, we can observe the traditional knowledge when the people with whom it originates are trying to preserve and renew their cultural identity. As you can also see in the figure, a traditional woman wearing a traditional costume. So nextly we have again traditional knowledge. Traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and local knowledge is a body of knowledge built up by a group of people through generation of a living close contact with nature. That means ट्रेडिसनल नलेज भनेकै हाम्रो वरिपरि जुन हाम्रो ट्रेडिसनली लिभिङ जुन इन्हेबिटेन्टहरू छन् उनीहरूबाट आउने नलेज नै ट्रेडिसनल नलेज हो र ट्रेडिसनल नलेज चाहिँ ट्रेडिसनल पिपुलबाट आउने र ट्रेडिसनल पिपुलहरू चाहिँ नेचरसँग एकदमै कनेक्टेड हुने गर्दछन्. Now, nextly, we have traditional practices are still the only defense for the poor people living in remote areas far from modern society and facilities. We already know that the Nepal is a developing country. In most of the areas, traditional knowledge or traditional practices are only the option for livelihood. So, next we have, as we already mentioned in the first slide, that traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge, that means indigenous knowledge is a backbone of a traditional knowledge. As you can also see in a figure that indigenous knowledge is a subset of a traditional knowledge. In case of Nepal, indigenous people like Sepangs, Balami, Dorai, Meche, Dhimal, Kisan, Limbu, Rai, Sherpa, etc. begins with indigenous people or traditional people. So in case of Nepal, indigenous people, Sepangs, Balami, Dorai, Meche, Dhimal, Kisan, Limbu, Rai, Sherpa, etc. practice their traditional knowledge for the conservation of nature. As we already mentioned, traditional people or indigenous people are very close to nature. So on our next slide, we have a term ethnobiology. That means discipline of a documentation of a knowledge of indigenous people about utilization of a floras and faunas to cure different diseases, fracture, and injuries. In a simple word, we can say that ethnobiology is a science that deals with the study of plants and animals which are used to cure different kind of diseases. On the slide, we can see that the small branch of a leaf that is in Nepali amala, which is used for a different kind of diseases like for a diarrhea, as well as it is used as a cosmetic product to grow our hair. So on the next slide, we have a rationale of a study. So traditional knowledge are the more effective and efficient in forest conservation than compared to government strategy. It is caused because I already mentioned that the traditional people are close to nature. They protect their nature in their own way. So in compared to government strategy, traditional knowledge implementation of a traditional knowledge is more efficient and effective. Now, next one, the trend of a transferring traditional knowledge for forest conservation is being neglected. It is due to the modernization of a recent time. So, in third, we have a limited research on a traditional knowledge practices for a forest conservation, and lastly, we have documentation of ethnobiological knowledge is very important, or it might lost forever. So we have objectives. General, to study about the ethnobiology and traditional knowledge for conservation of a Jaltar forest, and in a specific objective we have to identify the forest resources, plants and animals used by a local community, to identify the traditional method used in a forest conservation, to study the effectiveness of a traditional knowledge for conservation of a community forest, and to understand about people perception towards traditional knowledge. So materials and method in our study we use are uh, as a study area we selected Jaltal Japa, and in Jaltal Japa 7 community forests are surveyed for our data collection, and in a methods we have a field survey we had a field survey method, purposive questionnaire survey, focus group discussion, KII, GPS location. So next on this is a research design for our project. Data collection was conducted by a two method, primary data collection and secondary collection, as you see in a screen. So here is our result of a project. Table 1 shows the plants that are used as a medicine along with their scientific name and parts use and elements. Again, these are the plants used as a medicine. Altogether, 44 species of plants are documented which are used as a medicine in a Jalthal Japa of 7 different community forests. The best part is that same plant, different parts are used for a different purposes. So again, we have table 2 that shows animals used as a medicine. Again, along with scientific name, parts used, elements, and class. So in case of animals, altogether 14 species of animals are used as a medicine, which was very less as compared to the plant species. So table 3, human wildlife conflict. In a study area, human wildlife conflict also observed. The common human wildlife conflict are elephant, monkey, wild cat, wild rat, python, parrot, eagle, snakes. So, beside the ethnobiology, there are some general beliefs that helps in the conservation of a forest, and they are different pujas such as Garam Puja, Prakriti Puja, Devi Puja are performed. Wedding and worshipping of trees, especially bird and people. Establishment of temple inside the forest. Restriction in tossing of a fruit, plants by women and girls during their periods. Prohibition in tossing and cutting certain tree species, collection of a forest product only on a specific days such as Bhumiraj. So nextly, we have a conclusion of this work. Different culture and tradition have direct relation to forest conservation. That means beliefs, do's and don't. Due to the revolution towards modern society, the trend of traditional knowledge practices are being neglected. In spite of declining status of traditional knowledge, people have positive perception towards a traditional knowledge. 43 pla- 44 plants and 14 animals were found to be used for medicinal purposes. Distribution of ethnobiological knowledge is almost similar in all 7 community forest of a Jalthal. So here we have some recommendation. Government and community forest user groups should encourage the traditional knowledge and provide opportunity to show the potential use of a source knowledge. Old people should be encouraged for transferring of indigenous knowledge to next generation. Community forests should be promote the farming and production of a medicinal plants in their area. Non-government organization, INGO and NGO should support indigenous knowledge in a different level for benefit of mankind. So here is the acknowledgement. I would like to thank Mr. Topil Prakash Rai, our supervisor, and Mr. Divas Dal, head of Department Environmental Science. Lastly, I would like to thank all the listeners of today's programs, and thank you. Here are some photo plays regarding my study. Thank you.